This came in reference to collaboration, relationship, harmony, relationship, society as a network of relationship. You know? Human functions are fulfilled in relationship. So therefore understanding the relationships. So each relationship has definite purpose, definite activities, definite responsibilities, and definite expectations. Right? So we had talked about parent-child relationship, and the purpose of it was that the end result of the product of this relationship is a learned and responsible new generation. Right? And then we talked about the activities in it, which were basically nurturing and providing opportunity and education, right? Which we can call as guidance, right? And responsibilities we talked about was making sure that the activities we are doing are in alignment with the purpose. That is our responsibility. So always keeping this in sight. And then we come to expectation. So what do you think might be the expectations in parent-child relationship? Like from the behalf of the parent, what is the parent's expectation from the child? Towards the child? Anyone? Whichever. Whatever you know. Whatever you believe in.
To live their life independently,
What does that mean?
so that they can take care of themselves, or I think expectation also they can take care of their parents also, matlab
There.
parents also think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in other words, what you said in a sense is right. You want to say something, please?
I was talking about the conventional because the moment parent child came,
Yeah.
I've not been able to. I mean, I usually go back to sleep after this session because it's a very heavy session and I just want to take some rest. But I could not because I was just thinking, what do I expect from my child? And I always tend to tell him that be a good boy. Now, this is,
Which is not
and
wrong.
no, but my expectations of a good boy and my criteria for a good boy is that he does his homework, he sleeps on time, he eats healthy food, and he doesn't watch so much of TV. So, yeah, to
Which
be
are all good.
okay, thank you. Yeah, so
But somehow it doesn't feel complete.
I feel it is too much for my child.
Ah, okay.
I mean, since I've come here, I feel it is too much for my child.
Okay. So he should not be doing his homework.
I mean,
He, he can eat anything he likes.
he does, although I can say whatever I want to say. He does what he wants to do.
Yeah. So we're talking about expectations from the child or towards the child by the parents. Right? So what all you're saying is the correct thing, but there's a lot easier way to answer this. Right? So when you say you want your child to be a good child, or you want to say the child should be independent, which basically means should be able to take care of himself and parents, like you're saying, it basically means the child when it grows up is responsible. Right? And the child is also learned. Their expectation is in what is the purpose? It's defined by that. Interestingly, it's not the expectation of the parent from the child. People who are observing this relationship around you, their expectation is also the same. That when you do parenting, the child will become learned and responsible. Right? Like when you see in your neighborhood, some children are irresponsible, then you feel the parenting is not right. Maybe you want to go and talk to the parent or do whatever. Right? Or the biggest complaints in relationships. A child's complaint towards parent. If the child is not able to live responsibly, at times they put blame on the parent. You didn't raise me properly. Right? So everybody's expectation from society to your family and friends to everyone is the same. Anywhere where parenting is taking place, expectation is that the result should come to a new generation of learned and responsible people. And this is what the whole society is working for. Everybody is contributing for that. The farmers are growing food for that. The bus drivers are driving the buses for that. The industries are making the products for that. It all culminates to that. That the newer generations are also learned and responsible, and they ensure the continuity of the natural systems and the human order. That is our expectations. So in this way, with this one relationship, parent-child, we can see how understanding the purpose, activities, responsibilities, and expectations, we understand the relationship. And in such a relationship, how can you be just? Like suppose I'm parent and he's the child, then I can definitely take control of the part of my responsibilities. Right? If I have understood something, then I can fulfill my part. That is just behavior. What is my responsibility as a parent? For the purpose of making the child learned and responsible, I nurture the child, I provide the guidance, education, opportunities, all that. This part every parent can do once they understand. Right? Any questions on this? Any clarification? Yes, please. Mic is near you.
Is there a, like, what does utility complementarity mean? And also, is there a responsibility of me as a child to the parent also?
Yeah. So the responsibility of child, let me first address that. So the responsibility of child, the activity of child was to utilize the resources and the opportunities given to him or her for nurturing and for education. It was the activity of the child was to utilize them. So its responsibility is to utilize it for the purpose for which it has been given. So parents' response, part of one of the responsibilities of the child is making the child aware of the purpose. And this process can start from very beginning, from simplest acts like giving a name to the child. You give a good name, inspiring name to the child will start identifying with the name, and someday will ask you, what is the meaning of my name? then that can also, because that name is going to stay always with that child. So it is essentially in purpose of, or in alignment with the universal goal or purpose of relationships or something like that, then they can get inspired. So from early childhood, you start talking to child about how we see them growing. What is the goal in our mind for them? But first that goal has to be in your mind. Right now also we do something of that sort, but these are very personal goals that we talk about. I want to see you as a doctor, engineer, or whatever, XYZ. Before that, the universal goal, and you participating in terms of the universal goal. If that can be instilled in the child, then it will always have some reference. Children are very sincere in the beginning. It's only later living in society they learn that they can cheat. They can take shortcuts. So, if the beginning they get a good reference, frame of reference, and they have people around them who are also using that frame of reference for checking their own actions, self-regulation, then they also start self-regulating. But if the parents are indulgent, the child will also become indulgent. If the parents are careless, the child will also take carelessness. Right? Mostly. So responsibility of the child is to utilize the opportunities and resources provided to it for the purpose. What is the purpose? That he or she has to become learned and responsible. Okay? Then coming to complementarity. The essence of the meaning of this word here is from the completing each other. Which doesn't mean that you are incomplete in any sense, but we talked about this the other day, that you are complete at one level, and for the next level, you join together or collaborate together to complete another level. So there are many levels of organization. So through education, as an individual, you become complete because your observations have become complete. Now you can observe and see what is to be done. You are complete in the sense of fulfilling your responsibilities. And therefore now you can live in relationships in a harmonious way. So that way the family becomes complete. So parent and child are complementing each other for a harmonious family. Siblings are complementing each other for a harmonious family. Like that. Okay? Yeah. So I won't go into the details of all the rest of this relationship, but I'll mention. So parent-child relationship. Oh, okay. You change the order. Okay, ठीक है. So let's see how do these relationships come about. So let's start with husband-wife first. Right? So two people. So pre-qualification of becoming husband-wife is to become learned and responsible. So your awareness, your education has to be complete. And you have to be responsible, therefore, you start contributing into the society. So those two people who decide, who have now know the universal goal, and they want to live in essence of that, and co-create a family or co-create a new generation, so taking forward the human tradition. So such two people get married, and husband, wife, right? And they plan their lives together. That's such two people coming together as husband, wife. This is the initiation of the first relationship as husband, wife, right? Then if they're married, there is possibly a chance of them having children, right? So the moment they have child, they become parent, and this gives rise to the parent and child relationship, right? And there is a possibility that these parents have more than one child. This gives rise to sibling relationship, right? Now, there is not every family is not in isolation. There are many other families. So there are many other children. So children in other families become friends. And parents in other family become friends with the parents. So that gives rise to friend-friend relationship. So these children also need education. So somebody in their community takes the responsibility, okay, we'll teach, whether structured schooling, unschooling, whatever, somebody takes responsibility, right? They become, that brings in the teacher-student relationship, right? And when the education is complete, they will start working. And when they start working, so co-worker relationship, right? Or employer-employee relationship. Okay. And everybody else, you have the institutional relationship as a citizen. Like when you're traveling in a bus together, right? So what is the purpose of traveling in the bus? To arrive safely in some place, right? So the relationship you have with the driver for that short time. So is there any responsibility on the part of the driver? Yes, to drive safely and make sure that everybody reaches safe. What is the responsibility of the passenger? Right? To utilize that bus, use that bus thing in a manner that it remains in a good condition, is not disturbing others, right? That is the responsibility. So this is under an institution. Similarly, so many relationships are there. Shopkeeper and you. You go to a local municipal corporation office, institutional relationship. The local electricity board, institutional relationship, right? So many ways you interact in a community, in a society. These are all institutional relationships. They also have their own purpose, their activities, their responsibilities and expectations. So when we are interacting in them, just keeping these in mind helps you self-regulate, and you can fulfill your part of the responsibility. Okay. So all humans interact under any of these. Like when you're traveling, sometimes you meet somebody, right? Co-passenger. So, and you become friendly with them. So for a short period, when you're interacting with them under this, you're also interacting with them in this relationship because you become friendly with them. Okay. We can have many more names and things like that. Under these 7, most of the, or largely all of the requirements of a human living are fulfilled. So whenever one meets a person, like I meet a person, then I tend to identify that person somewhere here. This one is just exclusive one. This is only with one person. But rest of them, you can have multiple. Okay. Any questions? Is it the content which is keeping you quiet or the lunch?
Can the first one be a wife relationship or a husband relationship?
Sure. See, even right now, I think there are cases going on in several countries for same-sex couples who want to adopt children and raise them. So, if they're going to raise them, they have to do parenting. The same principles apply. Lunch was very good. I won't accept the content is boring. Okay. Shall we move on then?
Would you say that in some senses the friend-friend relationship kind of percolates into the other ones as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. And if you ask me, I will always go in more details. If you don't ask me, I'll move on. Okay? So, like a parent-child relationship, it's mostly functional till a certain age of the child in that form, where one is at a slightly higher level because they are providers and the other is utilizing it. But there comes an age when the child becomes learned and responsible. Now the relationship can be more of a friend. But the interaction will have some sort of protocols which will still maintain some sort of, I don't have a word for shishtha in Hindi, which is, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I'm a poor user of English. Oh, I don't know how to say this. Etiquettes. Yeah, it's a slightly rigid word, but let's go with it for the timings. You know the Hindi word, but for the others who don't know Hindi, etiquettes. It's kind of, there are certain etiquettes for each relationship, how you address them. And these are circumstantial. These are from various places. Like in India, the etiquettes will be different. In some other place, they'll be different. Even in India, in Himachal, it will be different. In Haryana, they'll be different, like that. But there are some etiquettes. No behavior in relationship is free of etiquettes. There's a right way of behaving with each other. Or not right, accepted way of behaving with each other. Amongst friends, amongst brothers and sisters, among husband, wife, another parent, child. No. Yeah. Appropriate, and it comes from the cultural, and culture is circumstantial from which place you are. Right? So yes, the parent-child can become friendly, but some of those etiquettes still remain, like how you address each other. But essentially, the relationship would be more at friendly level now. Right? Same with teacher and student, it can happen. When the student has become learned, then they can become friendly. They become more or less equals now, in certain senses. Okay? Yes, please.
So what would you say a purpose for husband and wife would be apart from co-creating child?
No, I never said co-creating a child.
Yeah, co-creators I heard, so I assumed.
Right. So basically, any relationship, we are having overlaps and we are doing things together. Right? Essentially, husband-wife relationship has the maximum overlaps. There are a lot of common things that we share. We become intimate, physically also, emotionally also, and if things go well, spiritually also, right? Intellectually also. So, this is a place in this relationship where we are able to explore all these dimensions and see the evidence of our understanding. You see, the evidence always requires at minimum two people. But I could be delusional. I could think whatever I'm saying or living is okay, is perfect. So, the other day you would ask about evaluation. So, since evaluation is always mutual, you need at least two. So, in this, since these two are equals and they are working together, when they evaluate things, there is the possibility of doing things very well. So it's actually, the purpose is to, in Hindi we say it, the continuity of the human tradition. In English, let me say it, the continuity of the human tradition, and that has got two aspects to it. One is the biological continuity, that wherever it is desired, it can be there. And the other is the continuity of the knowledge tradition. These are the two components, right? So when you live together and you create a family together, you become a part of the civil society also. You're projecting certain values within your family and in the community as a unit. And what you value and what I value could be different, but both could be useful, right? So two people coming together and adding value to the society. Right? In that, they all can also have children, right? They also do some work, they also contribute. All that is together. Yeah.
I think uses courtesy.
Courtesy, yeah. Okay. So every relationship has certain courtesies. Okay. Sounds right to me. Yeah.
We were just talking about the sixth one, employer, employee, and co-workers.
Hmm.
So seems to me that in all the other six, at some point in varying degrees, you can have a friend-friend, which is a sort of relationship of equality. So I don't know if it's a translation thing in terms of employer-employee. I think that's the one relationship where you can't really have some sort of friendship status of equality unless, of course, you have a co-worker aspect. So isn't an employer-employee relationship somewhat truly hierarchical, whereas the rest you can have a more socially equitable relationship or friendship? In fact, even in teacher-student, even the teacher in some general sense is a student of the same subject, largely. So I was just wondering if um, it can be said that the sixth one is somewhat distinct from the others in this sense.
So in this case, when you start valuing the work, when you start understanding the work and its significance in the human living, then you start respecting all work. It is only circumstantial that you have a major responsibility of managing a lot of things and somebody is giving a contribution to that. That doesn't make you two unequals. But if you don't have respect for work, then the hierarchy matters to you. Right? Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to that because I worked with a small family business for over 20 years, and it was work that I thought was valuable, so I was happy to work with them. They were the ones that took the risk financially to actually make the company. It's an organic textile company. And the couple who owned the company, they were very respectful of the people who worked there. They treated them, as equal human beings. And they were just, they were in a position where they were the ones who put the money in. They had the vision, but actually they were very thankful to the staff for the work that they did. And so the staff were also very happy to contribute to those employers. So the relationship was a beautiful one, actually. They always tried to pay above, what they would have to pay. They would pay as much as they could afford to pay, actually. And so in that relationship, there was no sense that they were an exploiting employer. They were somebody who took the risk, who actually had the vision to create a company, and then the people who worked for them were actually very glad that these people had started a company, because it actually gave them an opportunity to work, to make an income, and to do something that they thought was useful and valuable. So I was very happy to be part of a model like that also.
Yes.
When you said that, I actually was thinking about my organization. We were just discussing this only. For us also, hierarchy is on just for the papers, you know, to just tell the probably funders that there is somebody who's managing the program and there are people who are working under it. But otherwise also hierarchy has, I think hierarchy is very subjective, and treating equality, having equality between employers and employees is very subjective to organizations and organizations. So I'm also very grateful like him that we work in an organization where we we sort of don't have any sir ma'am culture also. We usually call even the person who's 66 years old, we call her by name only. So yeah, I hope other organizations could also do that, because for us it has never been that we can't go into that room without knocking, or we have to take an appointment with our our boss, if that is so. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Okay. So one other, yeah.
I was just going to throw this point out about there being a difference between hierarchies and roles.
Uh, I was also going to say this similar thing, but I was going to use the word having a structure and having hierarchy. These are two different things. Structure is important for organization. Hierarchy is needed for power dynamics. Right? So structure is different from that. And in a structure there are roles. Family is a structure, but family can also be a hierarchy. In the present form, when we see it. When there is a structure, there are defined roles, and those roles have to be fulfilled, right? So that the structure is maintained. So that, what is the purpose of structure to maintain? When a structure is maintained, then that structure is able to contribute to the next level in a continuous manner. Okay? Yeah. Next. So now we'll start the study of nature a little bit. Right? We talked about human being. We'll come back to the human order after this talk, because we need to place now that we know the observer who has to live, and somewhat we've talked about the living in relationships. We'll come back to that later now. We need to now discuss a little bit of order in nature, right? And this topic is called knowledge of coexistence. Okay? Yeah. So essentially there is only one line to understand. This is that line. It's a very small thing, one line. Okay. If you understand this much, you understand the whole existence. So existence is a system in, by, and for coexistence. Okay. So what does the word existence mean? That all that exists. Yeah. So we are using a collective name for everything that exists. We are calling it existence. Okay. And we are saying existence is coexistence in form of a system. Existence is a system in, by, and for coexistence. What does these three terms mean? In actually signifies causality. By signifies process. And for signifies result. So the causality of existence is coexistence. Process in existence is coexistence, and the result in existence is coexistence. And for all this, there is a system. And this is all actually a system, right? So we'll take them one by one. So let's first take existence. So when you look out at any level, right? Like suppose at the night sky you look out, right? So you'll see some objects and vast spaces in between. And if you were able to look at the, say, at the subtle level or the, say, atomic level, again you look at something, there are objects and vast spaces. So the existence comprises of two inseparable entities. One is space and other is matter. Okay? So objects and space. The space is boundless, which basically it has no boundary. Whatever boundary you imagine of it, it is beyond that. Okay? And it is all pervasive. That it is present everywhere and through everything. If you look at it, like humankind when was studying matter, so we thought the smallest particle could be the molecule. Then we found some space inside that. So we said, no. Their molecules are made up of atoms, because you can see, you can not see, but imagine two or more objects moving around in space which form the molecule. At that time we thought, okay, the atoms are the smallest things. Then we found space inside the atoms. We found that, oh, there are electrons, protons, neutrons, and they are at some distance and doing some coordinated motion. So at any level, even if you look at these electron, proton, neutrons, you'll still find space inside it. So here the statement is that space pervades everything, all matter. It's going through and through matter, unlike air or water. Like When I move my hand in the air air moves because I'm displacing it. But when I'm moving my hand, I'm not displacing the space. The movement of hand doesn't affect the space at all. It is around it and it is through it. Okay. This state of being is being called pervasive. Okay. Matter is basically in form of units and innumerable units, infinite units. Right? They're beyond counting. These is not only is it uncountable, they're also infinite. It's not a problem that I can't count or a human being can't count. It's more than that. Right? The other thing about these two things is we think of space as nothing, usually. Here we are calling it something. It is something. It is not nothing. It is something. And matter is also something. Presently we are trained to think that if it is not in form of matter, then it is nothing. Okay, the first thing that you have to change in this is, it is not nothing, it is something. And it has its distinct properties. Okay. And matter also is there. Matter is in form of units. And both of them have this property that they can neither be created nor destroyed. This you study in science, law of conservation of mass. Right? Space also cannot be created or destroyed. So there is no beginning or end of space or matter. Okay? So they both are indestructible. They are there. Then another quality of this is space is unchanging. The space here and the space outside the room, or space in America, or space in between any other planets is the same, is homogeneous. There is no difference. If truly there is anything homogeneous, it is space. Okay, so it's unchanging. Whereas matter is ever changing. So this is ever changing, indestructible thing. And this is non-changing, indestructible thing. Okay. Any questions? Any clarifications till now?
How is matter indestructible?
Yeah. So suppose you take, and this you study in school science also, suppose if we take a piece of paper. Can we destroy it? We can destroy the form it is in, which is the paper. How do we do it? Maybe we'll burn it. When we burn it, it will become smoke, it will become ash, something like that, right? But the amount of matter in it remains the same. If you measure the smoke, the particles in smoke and particles in the ash, not even 0.000001% would have been lost. So matter is changing form. So we can change its form, but it can never be destroyed. Okay? Next.
Sir, human is made up of two, Jeevan and body. So is Jeevan space and matter is body? No, they are both separate from this.
Jeevan is conscious matter, body is physical chemical matter. One is sentient matter, one is insentient matter. Why? How can we say it is matter? Because matter is in form of units. You are a conscious unit, I am a conscious unit. I am thinking right now, you are thinking right now. you are thinking differently, I am thinking differently. So we are two separate entities. So we are in form of units, therefore we are matter.
So, conscious matter, like you're saying my soul is matter, है ना?
Yeah, if we want to use that word. Okay. Okay. This we have talked about, existence free from beginning or end. Since neither matter begins or ends, nor space begins or ends, therefore existence, there is no beginning or end. Implication of this is, if something has no beginning, no end, then there is no concept of time at the existential level. Time is something begins and something ends, or something repeats.
And definitely not of a creator.
Of
either.
course, because there is no creation, so there is no creator. Okay. Next. So these are some of the qualities of space. Space is constant, continuous, unfragmented, omnipresent, transparent, all-pervasive, eternal entity. Imagine, what we used to call nothing, we are giving so many qualities to it. I'll be sharing this presentation with all of you, and those of you who want it in Hindi will also be sharing it with you in Hindi. Any questions on this? Yes, please.
I just missed out, like, you said Jeevan is conscious matter, body is
Body is a physical matter.
physical matter.
So the technical terms we use is sentient and insentient.
Oh. And you said there is no creation. Like,
Yeah.
what that? I haven't heard it before.
Okay. So we are talking at the level of existence. This everything included, right? We are giving it name existence. There is no beginning to it and there is no end to it. So since there is no beginning, so it was not created in that sense. But if we limit our observation to certain space and time, say suppose let's take this village and this time, then we'll see something's forming and something's deforming, right? Somebody's cutting that tree, we can hear it, right? There must be some seeds which are sprouting right now. So the creation that you see is within the limits of space and time. So now I'll give you an example. Just think about it. We'll take the example of our earth. At this moment, how many children, according to you, would be in the womb? Quite a few. Let's say, let's use the word. Many. Okay. How many children would be being born right now? Many. How many are 1 year old right now? In the same moment, how many are 10-year-old? How many humans are 30 years old, 50-year-old, 80-year-old? How many humans are dying in this moment? In the same moment, all the states of human existence are existing. Okay? Interestingly, what about the next moment? What about the next moment? In every moment, all these states are existing. So what is changing? Is anything changing?
But more number of people are being born, so more amount of sentient matter is being created.
Limited in a space and time, this planet you might be talking.
So in that way, the total number of human beings that can live on Earth is pre-decided.
Is self-determined by the system. Just like the number of trees can be in an area. Suppose you have a piece of land. I suppose we have this piece of land. How many mango trees can exist on it? Maximum 2. You don't need any external force.
So if the number of human beings is predetermined, and that depends on the potential of the earth or on the land or on whatever finite piece we are talking about, then in that way, how can we say that we are like, creating, like there's like global warming, or like that humans have reached a limit and we should.
Now, global warming, so you can feel the temperatures are rising.
Yeah.
That's got nothing to do. So overpopulation, you want to say?
Yeah, overpopulation.
Yeah. So did I mention it here? Whoever mentions is asked the reason. Earth can't be overpopulated. Because if the systems can't support it, if the numbers can't go beyond a certain limit, because the Earth won't support it. The fear is coming from somewhere else. These numbers scares a lot of people. Anyway, that's a different thing. Let's come back to this. Which is present at all times and all places. The space which is here is there in this moment, and in this moment, and in this moment, all the time. And it is here, it is there, it is there, it is everywhere. Okay? Next. Matter is eternal, indestructible, innumerable units, active, changing. These are the properties of matter. These are the properties of space. Okay?
Active means?
Any piece of matter you observe, it is doing some activity. There is some change taking place in it. In its structure, in its motion, okay? Some change is taking place. Next. So now we've talked about existence like this. These are the two things. And now we'll talk about how they're together, the coexistence. So what does the word coexistence actually mean, right? So one of the, if we were to use a very day-to-day language for describing coexistence, it would be togetherness in being and functioning. Right? Let's take an example to understand. Right? Like for example, how does a tree come about? Because the soil nurtures it, the air nurtures it, the water nurtures it, right? So its being comes about because of the togetherness of all these things with the seed. And its functioning, when the tree grows, it purifies air, it nourishes soil, it purifies water, So there is complementariness there. So its functioning also is in togetherness, and its being is also in togetherness. This is coexistence. Can there be a tree without soil, or without water, or without air? Does the tree in its lifetime purify air, water, nurture soil, enriches soil, right? Where is the most fertile soil? In the forests. So this togetherness of being and functioning. We humans have also come to be because of this togetherness of nature. But our functioning is yet not in togetherness. That is our problem. We are functioning trying to be our own thing without realizing this togetherness. We don't realize this togetherness with each other or with nature. So we are not functioning properly. That's what we need to fix. Anyway, next. The other definition is being useful and complementary. So the more developed uses the less developed. Like a tree is more developed than soil, so it utilizes soil, right? And the more developed also complements this less developed. So the less developed is useful for the more developed, and more developed complements the less developed. So the soil is useful for a tree, and the tree's dried leaves, branches, and when the tree dies, all that matter which is there, it enriches the soil. That way it complements it. Next. And this is the fundamental definition of coexistence, which is that each unit is a system in itself with its own uniqueness while being a part of larger system. Again we go to the tree, my favorite example. That leaf, is it a system in itself with its own uniqueness? Is it part of the larger system which is the tree? Yeah. That tree, is it a unique system in itself? It is a system in itself with its uniqueness and part of the larger system which is the geographical area here. This geographical area is a system in itself with its uniqueness, right? Part of the larger system which is this planet. This planet is a system in itself with its own uniqueness, part of the larger system which is the solar system. The solar system is a system in itself with its own uniqueness while being part of a larger system which is the galaxy. The galaxy is a system in itself with its own uniqueness and part of the larger system, maybe of a cluster of galaxies. And you can go on like this, it's never ending. From this level to infinite you can keep going, you'll only find this. But come back to that leaf. We went from small to bigger to very big. Now let's go from this small to smaller and smaller and smaller. So this leaf, which is a system in itself with its uniqueness, is made up of biological cells. These biological cells are a system in themselves with their own uniqueness, right? Each biological cell is a system in itself which is made up of many molecules, right? Each molecule is a system in itself with its own uniqueness. Each molecule is made up of atoms. The atoms are a system in itself with their own uniqueness. So you see, in this manner, from smallest scale to the largest scale, all you see is coexistence. This is important to understand. If you look at the functioning of that leaf, it being a system and its uniqueness, in the end, it is contributing to the tree. If you look at the tree, it is contributing to this geographical area. If this is not coexistence, then what is? Any questions? This is important. This is the fundamental part of this. This whole theory is also called coexistentialism. Yes.
I get how matter is being related, is living in itself. How is space like coexistent? Like the leaf is all matter. Like if you can also explain, give an example of space.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm coming to that. That is a very important issue. That's the crux of the whole matter, or space. Okay, next.
Does complementary means being useful?
Yes, for a larger system. See, useful and complementary. These are basically two sides of the contributions that one makes. Right? So, simply contributing is basic coexisting. Soil contributes to the growth of a plant. Right? And the plant nourishes the soil. The one we are calling usefulness, the other we are calling complementariness. Language. Basically, both are contributing to each other.
So you said that we are a conscious unit, right? But then we even don't know the limits of our own conscious mind. So would you say that the conscious mind is as boundless as the space is?
We'll come to that. See, we not knowing our limits doesn't mean that we cannot know it. Right? But true, the conscious unit can grasp space. It is the only thing which can understand space, and in fact space and matter and their coexistence. Okay. So till now we have been talking about units and their coexistence, like Aksa pointed out. These are matter, units of matter. They are coexisting together. Huh? Huh. So this insentient, sentient matter permeated in space is the complete reality. So there is coexistence of space and matter. Matter is of two kinds. One is sentient and one is insentient. Both are permeated by space. This is the fundamental reality. This is the complete reality. Space permeated in matter permeated in space. This is the coexistence of matter and space. The space, matter is in space. Space permeates matter. What does this permeate mean? Right? So this space and matter, what we are calling permeated in space. So the matter is soaked in space, immersed in space, and encompassed in space. soaked in space basically, what does it signify? That the space is going through and through matter. Right? Second, it is within the space. Matter is inside the space. Space is going through and through, and matter is inside space also. And third, we are saying it is surrounded by space, encompassed by space. We use this language to signify certain things. Because of being soaked in space, matter is energized. Because it's immersed in space, matter is active. And because it is encompassed in space, it is regulated. What does it mean? That there is recognition and Drishta? Recognition and response. That is regulation. Okay? Law, balance. Why providence? Providence? Spot on. Okay. So when we say matter is soaked in space and therefore energized, that means there is some sort of energy. Right? So we are calling space as the fundamental energy. Okay? Now, what is this fundamental energy? If you look at any piece of matter, anywhere, at any scale, it is always active. Activity signifies there is energy. Right? If there is any activity taking place, like for example, Earth is going around the sun, or the planets are spinning on their axis. So for this activity, you need energy. So the source of energy could be either matter itself, or it could be space. Because there are only two things. Okay. So let's assume that source of energy is matter itself. Let's start with that. So any unit, whether it's an atom, it is also active, planet, it's also doing something activity. If you take any unit of matter, is it finite or infinite? Any unit of matter, will it be finite or infinite? Finite. Okay. And the activity is doing, the activity starts and stops, or is it continuous? The earth spinning is continuous, or does it start and stop? Right? That is one explanation. I am giving another one. Because this fundamental energy is an issue for science. We have been trying to resolve that. Why is all the matter, where is the energy coming from? So the matter is active, continuously active. For continuous activity, will you need finite energy or infinite energy? Can the finite unit be the source of infinite energy? Yes.
What if the energy is a result of a particular organization of matter? So that once matter deteriorates, there's no longer any energy.
So that organization, because it is doing some activity, say an atom is an organization, right? So if it is doing some activity, then there will be, energy will be spent. Then the activity should stop. But you don't find it to be so. If it would stop, then we should find some inactive matter. Yeah. And to maintain the structure, you need energy because there is coordinated motion. All the structures you see all around in the universe, they maintain their structure. We don't find the structures which are like stopping or doing collapsing on its own. The building blocks of everything that you have here are atoms. They are organized matter, organized structure. If their energy is lost, then all this structure is lost. In fact, to stop the activity of atoms, we've been trying to bring them around the absolute temperatures. It's very difficult. They still remain active. Yes, please. Use the mic, ma'am.
It changes. It doesn't necessarily have to be what it is as we see it. You see this building, okay? Tomorrow when I say tomorrow, I don't mean like 24 hours tomorrow. But in a certain length of time, its structure may change. But it'll still be those same atoms will be still zooming around in a different form. But they won't stop because it's a continuum. It'll keep on going and going and going. They'll keep changing it from this to that to the other to whatever. But it won't stop. It's just a continuum.
Yeah. So, like I was telling you yesterday also about this, when you're looking at the structure, this is at one level, which is the gross level. And when we talk about atoms, that is at the very subtle level. Even in this structure right now, they are doing the same thing. When the structure changes, it has no impact on the atoms as such. Right? It has no impact on the atoms. Right? The structure is at a different level. So comparing this and that doesn't connect. At this level also, the structure, when it changes, suppose this building breaks down. So the bricks will fall or the mud will fall, but it still be there. Yeah, and it still be changing. Yeah, from there it will again be changing. The matter is ever changing, keep on changing. The change is one form of activity. The motion is the other form of activity. Yes, please.
Atom is matter. An atom is a matter. And you're saying that it's finite in number.
No. There are innumerable atoms in the universe.
But matter is finite.
When we are considering one unit, suppose we are considering one atom and we are looking at its activity. Now this atom is doing activity, it must be using some energy. Right? So the energy which it is using is coming from within its matter. Right? So I'm saying, since it's doing continuous activity, this unit itself is a finite thing. It cannot be source of the infinite energy which is needed for it to continuously do this.
That I understand, but just on the finite or infinity of atoms.
Just go back. Yeah.
If we are to say that, say hydrogen, in that way, atoms are infinite. I mean finite.
In numbers, yeah.
Finite in numbers. So oxygen atoms are finite in number.
Where?
On Earth.
On Earth, yes.
On Earth, they are finite.
Innumerable, but finite, because Earth itself is finite.
Correct.
So space and time, if you take a constraint, then it is finite. But if you remove that constraint, then they are infinite. How many planets are there? Innumerable.
Okay, so if we just consider the system of Earth right now,
yeah,
at that level,
yeah,
we are saying that global warming is changing the composition of air.
Yeah.
Which means the number of atoms in it are changing.
Composition of air is causing global warming.
Composition of air is causing global
Changing
warming.
composition of air is causing global warming. Yes.
So if this is finite, where are these extra things coming from which is causing it?
Because matter is changing form.
But they are finite in number.
Yeah, so they can still change form, no?
But
the tree can become wood.
But
wood can become dust.
The atoms are still the same though.
Yeah.
But they are causing something else and that is changing.
They are binding and unbinding. That's their nature. They bind together, they come together or go apart. So some places they are coming together, some places they are. The systems they form of this are self-regulated. But the human action is causing imbalance in these systems. So certain things are becoming more than what we need. So therefore the ill effects we are suffering.
Can you just repeat that, the last part?
Yeah. Wait, let me. No, say that again, please.
As in, like, that when you say that the matter is the same.
Changing composition of air. The carbon dioxide is increasing or the methane is increasing in the air, therefore there is global warming. Right? Where is it coming from? So when we are burning too much fossil fuel is form of a different chemical. You know, the long chain chemicals. When we burn it, it gets reduced to carbon dioxide and water. Right? So that carbon dioxide, it comes into the air. Methane also from lot of places, from swamps, from a lot of frost, which is permafrost, which was there, it is releasing some. Then from the animals, they pass out. So that is increasing. We are doing a lot of farming, the industrial farming. That is causing a lot of methane in the air. So all this carbon in the air is leading to the rise of temperature of the atmosphere. This we are calling global warming. The amount of matter is not going anywhere. It is in one form, it is changing into another form. Yeah. Okay?
Because there were reserves of carbon which, because we were not in this right system, we have now let loose in the environment.
Yeah. So all this organization of matter, which has resulted in mineral order, plant order, animal order, human order, is an organization. There's always the potential this can all get disorganized. But it won't be disorganized by natural causes. If the disorganization takes place, it probably will be because of nuclear wars. Because natural tendency, and we'll be talking about it, is for coexistence, not for violence with each other. That only human mind can think of.
Prevent the heat of the core to reach the surface.
Yeah.
Everything else can.
So whatever there is, like what she's mentioning is that like coal is there in the earth, because coal has the tendency, or carbon has the tendency to trap heat. So some earth's core is also very hot, and every day there is a lot of radiation also comes from the sun. So all these things which are in the earth's surface, coal, mineral oils, water, air, ozone layer, they all work together to keep the temperature of the surface constant within a certain range. +50, -50, between that. Right? Now this balance is getting disturbed. That is what is worrying.
They are sentient. So why did this sentient thing get evolved, like in evolution?
That's a good question. So it is the unit of knowledge order. It has the property that it has to discover its own purpose. And that's why it's put under knowledge order. It has the freedom to discover its own purpose and live in accordance with it. But it can use the choice or let it go. We are not using it right now, so this is happening. We are the only ones affected by the ill effects. Nobody else. No animal complains, no plant complains, no mineral complains. We do the wrong things and we cry about it. Yes, please.
We are really cutting our noses to spite our faces because of our desire for more and more and more, whether it gets us in any constructive direction or not. I mean, are we going in circles, or what are we doing as a human race?
Right. Right. We have talked about that part quite a bit now, that what wrong we are doing. Let's come back to this, because we need to understand this. Yes, please.
Regarding Aksa's question on why sentient matter came about, in any case, I think that's exactly what we are, the answer that we're moving towards right
yes.
now.
It will be addressed fully. So, we were talking about matter being energized, right? So, and the reasoning I was using was that every unit of matter is active, continuously active, and therefore it needs infinite energy. And a finite unit of matter can't be the source of infinite energy. So therefore, let's take a look at space. Can space be the source of energy? Can space be the energy because of it is energized? So is space everywhere? Is it inside, outside, everywhere? Yeah. Matter? You can't cut space with matter. Suppose you try to make a box of, say, thick iron sheets, right? And the space inside the box and the space outside the box is connected. It is not divided by these iron sheets. The space is going through that iron sheet. Just like light goes through glass, no? Like that. Again, that's an analogy. It will not be complete. This is even more subtle. In fact, any movement of matter does not cause any sort of disturbance in space. Space is totally unaffected by matter. But the other way, matter is totally affected by space. Matter, as I earlier mentioned, is unchanging, constant, eternal. So we call it here, matter is perfect. Like earlier we talked about, when does a change happen? When things are unstable, right? So change will take place wherever there is some sort of imperfection. Something is incomplete. The change will take place for completion. There is no change in matter. So we are calling, because of this quality, we are calling it perfect. Space is perfect. And the matter is pervaded by this space, and matter is immersed in this space. Right? Because of this state of being, the matter is striving for it. It accepts the influence of space, or it is influenced in space, and therefore active for perfection. So therefore the tendency, if you see the reactions of matter, they are all for stability. From one level of stability to the another level of stability to further level of stability. If you look at all the systems which have taken place on this planet, from one level of stability to higher level of stability. It's like a pyramid system of stability. Humans are on top of that pyramid of stability, and that's where they can play their game, because all this is stable.
If matter was perfect,
matter is not perfect.
Matter is not perfect.
It is imperfect, so therefore its activity is for perfection.
And that perfection will only come if it's moving continuous, if it's active.
So its activity is there, one part, and then there is direction of changes in it, from one level of stability to the better level of stability to better level of stability. Like that, it keeps on progressing. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Matter of itself has its own perfection. It's perfect in its own way. It's what we go and do with it that causes the problem.
The context is different here right now. We are talking about in a very different context right now. We are saying matter which is immersed in space, space being perfect, therefore the influence in matter by the fact of it being immersed in space is that it is striving for perfection.
Okay. Matter is perfect.
Okay. So its activity is for perfection. So activity is got a direction in it. It is active for perfection. So how can we say this? Because if you see, like subatomic particles are active, but they are doing some sort of a random motion. But the moment they come near each other, they come into an organization called atom, which is coordinated motion, which is much more stable. Their motion becomes regulated. Yes.
So the implication here is that matter is trying to transform itself into space, which is perfect.
No.
No?
It is not. It cannot transform.
It can't, but that's what if it's changing towards something which is permanently stable, then it would seem that it's at least conceptually trying to aspire for some sort of space status.
Let me just give you an example. Like, have you ever immersed yourself in something? Say, philosophy. You're reading Kant these days, I know that, right? So when you immerse yourself in something, what happens is that you start accepting the influence of that thing. Somebody immerses themselves in music, suppose, right? When you're immersed in something, all your actions start showing that influence. You will never become Kant, you will be Sid, but your actions will show the influence of Kant. Or somebody is influenced by music, might not become a musician, but can be seen that that person is influenced by music. There will be rhythm or singing or whatever. Right? So the influence is exhibited along with the activity. In what form? In the direction it goes. Right? So it gives it direction. So here, at the fundamental level itself, there is direction. Right now we think of matter as doing random things. Here we are saying it's not random, it is for perfection. And whatever level of organization it is, it can achieve certain kind of stability in that, and which contributes for further stability and which results in perfection in some place. But that perfection and perfect are two different things. Matter will never become space, space will never become matter. They are not interchangeable. Okay? The perfection in matter is, as I mentioned earlier, first perfection is structural perfection. Okay? Where this is where the conscious atom comes about. This Jeevan is actually a configurationally perfect atom. Okay? So, matter being immersed in space is active for perfection. So, wherever it is, in whatever association of other unit the matter is, all of them get to the level of stability which is capable in that organization. And they are, this unit which is self-organized now and exhibiting some stability, some balance, then they participate in the larger system. Again, they show some perfection, some stability, then larger, and like this.
Ashok, can we
So there is some continuity. Like when we are saying structurally perfect, it basically means the matter will be, now there will be continuity in its structure. So that atomic configuration's continuity is permanent. That is what we are calling immortal. It will not change now. So that there is the continuity of the structure. So some continuity comes in. Now it is not going to change in the unit itself. Yes, please.
This is with reference to the initial classification you made about idealism and materialism.
Okay.
And as per my understanding, what you just explained, this is perfectly what Lokayat says. Lokayat is the right name for Charvak or materialism, whatever you can say. They also say that matter aspires for stability, and if there is a perfect combination and situation available, matter aspires for stability, and consciousness is also a product of that combination of matter in certain special circumstances.
Okay.
So I think what you are right now saying is perfectly matches with what Acharya Brahaspati said.
Okay. So I've not read this, so I don't know about this. I would like to know what is the causality for matter striving for perfection in that?
No, causality again is a natural process. It's a natural, what Lokayat said is a natural process where the matter combines in a particular proportion, conditions, and the consciousness emerges out of it. Then there is a process where this balance is disturbed, and the matter decomposes, and the consciousness is no more there. So that is what they say.
Anyway, I have not studied this, so I do not know about
No,
this.
what I'm saying, nomenclature.
Could be. There must be some similarities, no doubt. Yeah. But all I'm saying, I am not aware of it. I'll probably have to go through this and see this. Okay. Yeah. And if they say so, it's great. There's one more school of thought which is saying the same thing, which will be. Yeah. So, in materialism, one of the biggest problems is what is the causality? Where is the energy? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. So let's come to this part. It's frozen. So matter is encompassed in space. What does this signify? That this basically means, till now we were talking about that unit of matter is energized, it is active, and it is striving for perfection. Right? Now, this leads to say, now we consider more than one unit. Let's consider several units. Among these several units, there is space in between. But these units are able to identify each other, and or which we are calling recognition, and are able to respond to each other to come into a harmonious motion. Right? This is what we are calling regulated. How is that subatomic particles are coming into, arranging themselves into form of atoms, or atoms are arranging themselves into form of molecules? If the entropy has to increase, it should all be in form of dust. It should be subatomic particle dust, the whole universe. Why is it organized? And not only is it organized, it's evolving. Isn't plant order more organized than mineral order? Isn't animal order more organized than plant order? And for the emergence of humans, human order is much more organized in its being. Its functioning is yet to be organized, but its being is, it's a highly evolved matter. And there is no third party. There is no being which is doing all this. This is happening on its own. So where is this tendency coming from? That is the main question. In materialism, that is the issue which has to be addressed. Why is the matter organized? What is the causality for that? Whatever study I have done of materialism, I am just saying on that basis. Okay. So this recognition and response is from the fundamental level. Recognition will always be in some context, some reference. Like you and I are from Noida, we recognize each other, right? Like you are from Samban, you are associates of Rita. So we have some reference to recognize each other. So in existence, what is the reference for recognition? Orderliness. The orderliness is the reference in which things organize themselves. So if two particles are meeting, they'll become atom. Two atoms are meeting, they'll become molecules. Two molecules are there, they'll become complex molecules. More complex, complexity will keep on increasing. And in a harmonious manner, leading to next level of emergence of matter states. That is the tendency here. And we are saying this is all because it is soaked, immersed, and encompassed in space. The space itself is totally inactive. It is not doing anything. It is non-changing. But by the virtue of matter being in it, it is inspired by it. It is influenced by it. Or not by it, it is influenced in it. Because if we say by it, then it is a action, right? But it is not doing any action. It is just there, and matter is in it. And because matter is in it, it is inspired by it. And it is because inspired in it, therefore, it is energized, active, and regulated. And these three characteristics of being energized, active in a certain direction, and being regulated is the most fundamental property of all matter. And this property leads to the emergence of various organized states, from subatomic particles to atoms to molecules to other organizations, which goes on to galaxies, clusters, and stuff like that. Yes, please.
Can a sentient, I'm now understanding that how sentient matter, how insentient matter becomes sentient matter because it's achieving a higher level of stability. So in that way, and that makes sense also, we are eating the food and that's making, like, it's being utilized by both our body and our mind, or our soul, or whatever the word for it, Jeevan for it. But then, if it's now like that means sentient matter is at a higher level of stability. I die, so that sentient matter would, what will happen to that? Like my insentient body will become decomposed, and my in that way, like, what will happen to the sentient matter?
It will start another life journey. But the food doesn't go to it. Jeevan doesn't eat. The effect of food is still the body. Body's hunger and discomfort can affect the Jeevan till to a certain extent, but the nourishment won't go to the Jeevan, right? It won't go to your soul.
But I don't know if this is in any way connected with what Harish sir was saying.
Yes.
But why shouldn't we then think of Jeevan as some sort of consequence of our biological organization?
Yeah, sure. We can.
If it is, then wouldn't the food be, doesn't Jeevan eat then?
So we have yet to come to that part. She's jumped a little because she's attended workshops earlier, so she's talking about something which we are coming to next. Right? So let's first address these issues, then we'll come to that.
So I understood that matter is organized because atoms are responding to each other. So how does a plant become more organized than the mineral?
So is it more organized or not, first of all? Yeah. So this question of how is that, because there is nobody making the plant, right? The plant emerges out of mineral world only. The biological life has emerged out of the mineral life, world only. So how did this happen? So there is a direction in nature. Right? This addresses the question, this is related to the question of why is there sentient matter in nature? Sentient means the one which is conscious. So basically this is related to the question, what is consciousness for? Why is this property there? Or for that matter, why is there any other property there for?
So plant also has the Jeevan and mineral also has a Jeevan?
No. Both don't have Jeevan.
They don't. Only the human being has Jeevan.
So
are we sure about it?
I am sure. I don't know about you. I'll come to that part when we do the 4 orders. Then we'll talk about why we're saying that there is Jeevan here and there is no Jeevan there. Right? But what I'm talking about is that when you ask this question, how come plants emerges, which is a higher level of organization? That is a good question. Right? And this emergence goes till the time when there is human being. At least this we can see today. And human beings are conscious. And they are observers. They can see. So why is that property, ability to see there? Animals don't need to see everything. We from childhood, give a toy to a child, he'll open it out. What is inside? Wants to see everything. We want to know everything. And this is not something I have or he has or 1 or 2 persons. We all have it. So in that sense, this is a universal characteristic. So if we have this ability to see universally, and if nature is organized, then there must be some purpose for it. Okay? So the plant which emerges is part of the chain of emergence, the sequence of emergence of coexistence, from atomic level to molecular level to more complex minerals, then to biological life, to plant life, more complex plants, and in that the animal life starts from insects and other things, and it goes, the evolution goes on till humans arrive. And we are at that state. We are all humans. We are seeing this. Now, we have this ability to see and observe. There is the most distinct ability in us. And we can see much beyond ourselves. We can see beyond our senses. Nobody has seen atoms till date, but we can predict so many things about them. We haven't been beyond, say, moon yet, or maybe Mars, right? As humans have not gone beyond moon. But we know about so many things, about so many faraway things. Millions of light years away. So it's the human ability and the human need to see and understand everything. And without that, we are not complete. So the whole message here is that humans' purpose or the role that we were talking about, this is where we started. What is the role of humans in nature? So we are here to see, observe the entirety and the whole beauty of this nature, existence. The nature has produced a unit in itself to watch itself, to see itself and be, in bliss by seeing it. We are the observers. We are here to see everything. We all are supposed to see everything. Each and everything.
So, would you claim that there are no limits to human understanding?
What do you mean by limits then?
That some things about the world in its beauty, so we just can't understand them.
No. I would say whatever we want to understand, we can understand. Whatever we choose to understand, we can understand. But for understanding different things at different levels, we need to increase our awareness, our ability to see and to understand.
But then why it seems as if we are better at understanding some things and not as good as understanding the others?
At present. Because we are right now looking at things from the viewpoint that we are bodies. So we are influenced by it. Our perception is very much distorted by it. We only look at sensory perception. We do not know the perception of awareness, which is again another ability of ours. From ancient times, people have been talking about it, but we have not yet been able to bring it into education. It is yet not available to all of us, the access to that. But we all feel it sometime or the other, that we can become aware. So this is a proposal for systematic approach to it. Okay. Any other question, please? Anyone?
Yes, I was wondering about this striving for perfection. How would that impetus arise?
So we are saying this impetus is here. because it is immersed in perfect. Like suppose you were immersed in water. You dove into a pool, and now you went inside the pool. All around you is water. Wouldn't that have any influence on you? Again, it's an analogy. It will always fall short, but just to indicate. So whatever you are immersed in, here what we are signifying here is anything which is immersed in anything, the thing it is immersed in becomes the causality for its direction, for its activity. That is the assertion here.
And space is the perfection.
Space is perfect.
Right. So space is perfect, and by being immersed in space,
matter can't be perfect because it can't become space.
Right.
But it can exhibit perfection.
Right.
And it can, in various stages, contribute to perfection.
And space is eternally perfect. It's like it never began, never ends.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I was just thinking, it's kind of, as I think you mentioned anyway earlier, just that we used to think of space as empty. Right? It's like it's the complete opposite.
Yes.
Basically, it's
Okay.
I mean, it hasn't been asked really, but I thought it's almost there. No, wait.
I had another question.
Just a second. If you serve food when there is no hunger, okay.
So there are clearly varying complexity in the organization of matter.
Right.
But Jeevan is specific to human beings, and this is a property which allows us to understand whatever we choose to understand, should we be willing to put in the effort.
Yeah. Jeevan is also there in animals.
It is there in animals, okay.
But there the body dominates their living. When I had mentioned that in humans, Jeevan is primary, and in animals, the body is primary, and given an example of it, right? The pile of wheat and all that.
Okay, then that takes. I thought that the claim was that animals don't have.
Right. Plants and minerals don't have.
Sir, you have explained it all in a scientific way, just for a better understanding. But when we talk about spirituality, what would we call like space? Through my understanding, I feel that space is the soul in the spiritual aspect, and matter is the body or mind in the spiritual aspect. Is it right?
So the spiritual aspect is related to human being, first of all. Nothing else talks about spirituality, it's only humans. What is spirituality? It is the search in humans for something permanent, perfect, and continuous. Right? And by the ability of seeing, humans can see this fundamental state of coexistence of matter and space, which is never going to change, this relationship, which is perfect in itself, which is permanent and continuous. So realizing of this is the highest spiritual state. Okay? Yes. Somebody else?
So if Jeevan is a tool with which we can understand anything, why is it that there are, and we are perhaps the most complicated organization of matter as far as a living organism is concerned? Why is it that we have not been able to understand aspects of the Jeevan in animals that are far below in organization? We're not really able to properly inquire into their mental faculties. If it was the case that we can understand anything, why is it that we're not able to understand things that are less complicatedly organized than we are?
See, to understand things, we need some reference. We need some basis. And those bases have at times been missing. It is not that we have not understood anything about animal world or plant world or mineral world. We have understood lots, right? But not completeness of there. So, if I may suggest, when we do the 4 orders, once we complete that, and we have the explanation of that, then let's talk about this. You can note it down, and we can come back to this, right? Because till we have talked about that, then because that foundation is not there, we can't build the logic, right? Okay. Anything else? No, Abhi. हाँ.
So in human, the Jeevan is primary, and in animal, the body is primary, and mineral doesn't have both.
Minerals are, you know, what? It's like
matter.
Iron ore. We all are matter, right? So we'll discuss this once we come to the 4 orders. It's there, I'll explain this very clearly. Okay. Now I think our time is also up. So let's meet tomorrow, and 8 o'clock we'll have some activity here. Yeah. Thank you.